Everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. I got an amazing guest today joining in from Indianapolis. That's Trisha. Hi, Trisha. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, right? I'm just now counting hours for Fridays. 2 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Actually 3 p.m. Sorry about daylight saving. Sorry about that. 3 3 p.m. actually, so 3 p.m. in New York. It's counting another maybe 3 hours before I step onto the weekend. Yes, that's where I'm right now. But again, thank you for joining in. I really appreciate Trisha. Thank you for joining in. Let me quickly do introduction of who Trisha is. Trisha is new to the credit union ecosystem like me. I have been in credit unions for 3 years, but she is even younger in terms of her tenure in credit union, just over a year. She's joined Everwise Credit Union as a VP of marketing. She's a marketer for life. She's a growth marketer and I would say performance marketer, all types of marketer in our life for the last 2 decades. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder. That's who Trisha is. Trisha, if you want to add some more bells and whistles, talk about your journey a bit, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. So I started on the agency side of my career, and I got to work with a wide variety of clients, whether that was kind of food and beverage or um, healthcare or higher education. And I also worked in finance as well. So it was great. I loved it. And then I worked in tech startup companies. And that's where I kind of got into the growth marketing. I love tech startups. They were great. I got to work in food and beverage and then healthcare. Healthcare was great because I got to learn really like the compliance side of things and really how to grow a healthcare tech company from the ground up. So great experience there. And then I went to Everwise and I love finance. It's been wonderful. They've welcomed me with open arms. And so it's been a great year learning more about finance, but then also growth and growing Everwise.
Perfect, right? So you are the exact type of people whom we need in the movement, who've seen the outside world, how the world works, for lack of better words, and help the movement carry forward, the movement become more intelligent, for the lack of better words. One question, right? So what is your current role at Everwise? What do you do at Everwise? I mean, you're VP of marketing, I know, but what are the few strategic things you're working on and what do you do over there?
Yeah, so some of the few strategies that we're working on is really core member growth in our membership and growing our deposits and loans and expanding out the footprint for Everwise as we are in the state of Indiana and Southwest Michigan. And really just kind of growing that footprint and that brand in our area. And also really also going after some of those Gen Z market, exposing credit unions to the younger generation, why they're important and why, it's a good place for that audience to be at.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what I even line. That the average age of a credit union member is north of 50, and the average age of a US consumer is 38. There's a 15-year-old gap, the 15-year gap that we usually see over there, unless you lower your average age per member for credit union, or you do not pivot into offering something that makes more sense. It's difficult. I mean, one of the favorite things that I like a line from credit union leaders is that you cannot be everything to everyone. You just cannot be.
Sure.
You have to be specific about your offering, your value proposition to your members, because there are other 20 credit unions who offer the exact same checking account, the exact same credit card, it's the same mortgage. So how are you different, right? So that's very well taken. We're doing out there in terms of I would say performance marketing, right? So how do you balance, Trisha, performance marketing with building a long-term brand? Because credit unions, people hate to talk about customer lifetime value. That's a sin. People don't talk about CLTV. I'm like, okay, guys. I mean, I agree to that somehow. And also, people don't talk about EBIT. I don't know if credit unions even report EBIT. It's always ROA, right? Now, but you come from the world where we talk about EBIT, right? We talk about EBIT every single quarter. So how do you balance this, performance marketing plus building a brand of a credit union? Because they are two different, worlds. Now, credit unions doing performance marketing is a whole new ballgame altogether.
Yeah, I think it's a great mix, honestly, because we talk about LTV now and we talk about CAC, customer acquisition cost, and that sort of thing. That's something that, as from the tech company, bringing that in, it's critical, to know kind of what is that lifetime value of a customer and what is a customer cost as opposed to what is a customer cost to keep a customer from churning and that sort of thing. So
Yep.
all of those metrics, bringing those in, I think is key. I also think, it's key to kind of be developing the brand, but there's always that acquisition angle that you can take and that you can pull in from that. We do a great job at trying to hit our brand pillars so that people know who we are all the time in our marketing, but also bringing in that product. And that reason, whether it be the digital online banking or the credit card, whatever that is, be able to have that acquisition point and that conversion point in your marketing.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about exactly the right matrix to talk, and it's not easy. It's not easy to. I mean, that's a wrong way to put across. It's not easy for a credit union marketer to relate, but for the lack of better words, credit unions do not operate in that way. CAC, what I call the CPA, cost per acquisition, CPA, or cost of acquisition CAC, churn and stickiness. We are
Yeah.
trying to better ourselves, but obviously, there are miles to walk because of the way how we are positioned as a movement. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're liking the other way of the world where we don't talk about EBITs and we don't report EPSs across quarters, right?
I also love the fact that credit unions are so kind of communication. They like communicate
Sure.
with each other. They share different things. I'm sure, as you can attest, coming from the tech world as well, everybody's kind of closed off and nobody wants to share different things and they're all competitors. But I really like that they're open, and that we can talk to each other and say, we tried this didn't work for us, and give examples. I love that part of it, of the credit
Yeah,
union space.
I'm sure. I mean, that's what makes us different, right, from the
Yeah.
rest. Absolutely. My next question is across priority, right? Now, obviously, membership growth is the highest priority because unless we grow in membership, we are not
Yeah.
running up. I mean, not running a profitable shop. We are not growing organically. You can grow inorganically by acquiring a bank or a credit union, but a steady organic growth is needed to sustain the business. So I think the first is membership growth, but even deposit growth or loan growth, they are equally important, right? So if you want to
Yes.
talk about what is your priority right now, what is your numero uno priority I mean that is there for you for the next 1 year for 2026, what would that be?
Yeah, it's tricky to say one. We always kind of talk about two very important things that we look at. We look at increasing membership growth, but also increasing products per member, so that we're
Yeah.
increasing that, like what you just said, that stickiness and that that connection and that community with our members. And so we're offering them the right products that they need based upon what we know and what we have the data from them and what products they already have. So those are really the two most, I know you asked me for one, but, those are really the two most important things that we, look at in goals that we try to attain year over year at that time.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's very well taken. It's not only just growth, but also deepening or rather developing. Again, a very wrong word to use, cross sell, but still, driving, developing effective cross sell strategies to improve share of wallet. I mean, that's table stakes. I
Yeah.
mean, people outside the world we do every day, right? But in this movement, it's a bit alien. We don't talk about that, but yeah, we need to talk more about that for sure. How
Well,
and we talk about
exactly.
engagement. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And you never want to hear from a member, oh, I didn't know you had that product, or, that sort of thing that would have worked for them. So we want to be there at the right time when they need it.
100% sure. Now, Everwise, I mean, before you came, right, I was
Mhm.
talking to Angie, that Everwise did a broad rebrand. If I'm not wrong, it
Yeah.
was a credit union that was for teachers long time back, right?
Yes.
And then you rebranded. I still remember that conversation 6 months back, it seems. Now, I mean, I personally like the theme of the credit union. I mean, I don't tell this to everyone, but I somehow like the color palette, the theme. I love the branding, right? What you guys have come up with.
Yeah.
Let's talk about if I were to ask you like one campaign or one initiative that you are really proud of, since you came to Everwise and you thought that this really drove results, and not just the front end metrics, but actually drove impact in balance sheet? What would that be?
Yeah. So, you talked about the rebrand. So, the rebrand for us is more than just the colors and the logo and that sort of thing and how people feel about it. It's also looking at the products and can we
Sure.
simplify our products, make sure that, we have the right products for our members. And so we just rolled out last summer revising all of our checking accounts and pulling them down into 3 checking accounts that gave the most value to our members. That campaign was super successful for us. Just really kind of breaking out 3 different checking accounts that hit our members in all the different ways that they needed to be, supported, and the different cashback elements and the different interest rates and that sort of things. It was very they're great checking accounts. And so that whole campaign was really helpful and very good in that customer acquisition as well. They're easy to understand checking accounts that people want, and have the different elements that people want in them.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So we saw a really good, success in those campaigns. And so I'm really pretty proud of those campaigns. We did what was called a max checking campaign, and just talking about the brand, and the elements of that checking account that really would capture those people that are looking for it. Our results, spoke for themselves. They did really well. And we continue to see more and more people in those 3 new checking accounts.
Yeah, I think one mantra is decluttering,
Yeah.
and remove the clutter, and get things that are actually making sense. Otherwise, again, being lost in a sea of sameness is difficult, right? I mean, I think that's what the rebranding helped you guys with, is recalibrating on products, on actually what the members need, and not just having because it's because everyone has it.
Yeah.
Today morning, last podcast I did with a few of my friends at Credit Human. They are one of the largest credit union in Texas. Interestingly, I didn't know they were the second largest solar loan issuer in the country, and that's their niche, right? I mean, that's what I expect every credit union, or wish every credit union does: finding their niche and doubling down on it. There's no
Yeah.
point in doing everything that everyone is doing.
Yeah, and what we heard from our members is this was simplification, simplified products that people understood and knew what they were getting. And so we heard that, and that's kind of what we've produced for them.
That's the most important thing, ma'am.
Yeah.
A couple of more questions, right? One is
Yeah.
obviously, credit unions compete with now the big banks, the fintechs, the newer banks, not only within credit unions, but outside the ecosystem, right? And when I ask I mean, I'm 33, 32, sorry, I'm still managing between whether I'm 32 or 33, but I am talking about people at my age, right? Late 20s and early 30s. Any average friend of mine who earns six figure, who earns anywhere between, 300K to more than half a million, when I ask them about what are credit unions, 90% of them haven't even heard about credit unions. Only the people who have taken out and maybe bought a car or a mortgage knows about credit unions, because there was one kind credit union given them a better rate, and this guy just went on to and got his or her auto loan from that. My question is, in that competitive landscape where it's difficult for people to even know what credit unions are in a city like New York, right? It's difficult. So what is that one marketing advantage you think credit unions have right now and should double down to be unique?
Yeah, I think one thing that I don't see a lot from a lot of credit unions is, in their marketing is talking about the community aspect and how your money stays within that community and how it
Yeah.
is working within that community. I think that is something that people, they're wanting that connection with something. And, especially in this day and age, I think having that connection with community is pretty big. And that is one piece I don't see a whole lot in marketing for credit union, is that community piece and where your money is being spent.
Yeah, that's very unique. I think it's similar for
Yeah,
community banks, but for credit unions, it's more because we are more consumer focused and business focused as
exactly.
community banks. Yeah, That's very well taken. One last question, Trisha, about obviously you do not have a crystal ball that I tell everyone that you cannot just predict what will happen tomorrow, but still, what do you think will good credit unions separate from the average ones in terms of doing differently in marketing? How do you think, in the next few years will the leaders and the laggers, for the lack of better words, right, will separate itself in terms of marketing?
Yeah, I think they will be going after and looking for talking to Gen Zs. I think that is a huge market that's untapped with what they know about credit unions and the differentiation. I also think tech is going to be a big thing with credit unions and getting up to speed with tech and maybe even seeding some of these big community banks or these banks. I think those two key options will be big. Promoting those community and where their dollar is going, educating in those Gen Zs, and then also increasing that digital footprint that they have.
Yeah, this is very, very well taken because unless you bake in Gen Zs, I mean, that's the generation that will keep the bulbs running, right? Because the next 20 years, there'll be no one, only Gen Zs and us. So treat us well. That's all. Treat us well. We'll be happy. We'll be happy campers. Just treat us well.
Yeah. I do think that they care a lot about their community. I think they're,
A lot.
really focused, new generation of really focused community ambassadors. And so I think this
Sure.
goes right aligned with what the credit unions offer.
I think community and mission, for
Yeah.
me, a couple of percentages here and there in rates still manageable, but unless the organization is aligned to my vision, I don't think I'll bank with the organization, with the institution. So yeah, so Trisha, this was so well taken. And again, thank you for your time today. We really
Thank you.
appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.